With Apple's September event out of the way, Apple has given us a few new devices to work with, and I have to say I was impressed. Apple managed to release 2 new Apple Watches, and more importantly, they released 4 new iPhones as expected. One of the biggest new upgrades was the removal of the decade-old Lightning port, which has been long awaited. Apple now introduced new iPhones with USB-C like every other company out there, but sadly, Apple is not only very late to the party, but they managed to mess things up even more and made the USB-C on the new iPhones more of a limitation than anything. So, like many others, you might be asking yourself the simple question, why did Apple eventually move to USB-C? Apple has been sticking to the Lightning port on the iPhones for years and years, despite every other company moving to USB-C and despite USB-C being clearly a better cable type than Lightning. Why did Apple choose that this was enough? And here lies the answer. Apple did not move away from Lightning by choice. Instead, they were forced by the EU. So, last September, the EU put forward legislation that aims at unifying the charging ports of all devices and using USB-C as the one and only charging port. This is simply due to the fact that USB-C is currently the best and most reliable port we have, and it is already being used by many major players in the electronics market. This case has now been, as of this past June, accepted, and this new rule will now apply to all tech companies. With the new regulations out, all companies will be forced to release devices that are only powered by a USB-C starting in 2024, but the new iPhone won't actually be released in 2024. However, Apple eventually decided to remove the Lightning port 1 year early and successfully transition to USB-C since they were going to be forced to do it eventually. So, at the end of the day, Apple never chose USB-C, but it was a decision that they had to make. During the Apple event, Apple announced that all new iPhones will be getting an upgrade to USB-C. However, not all USB-Cs were created equally, and the 2 cheaper iPhone 15 models won't be getting the same one that the more expensive Pro models are going to get. The cheaper models will be getting a USB-C that is limited to USB 2 speeds. This means that it is going to reach a speed of up to 480 megabits per second, which is the same speed that the Lightning port was limited to. This means that practically for the cheaper iPhones, it is not that much of an upgrade and more of a move to a new cable. The Pro models are the ones that are lucky enough to get an actual upgrade. These are getting a USB-C port that is limited by USB 3 speeds, which means that it can transfer data up to 10 gigabits per second. This indeed is much faster than anything that the cheaper models can offer, but still, Apple is even limiting the speed of the Pro models. Apple added a USB-C for the new Pro models that has no support for Thunderbolt 4 technology. If Apple had instead added Thunderbolt 4 support, the new USB would have been capable of transferring at 40 gigabits per second instead of 10, which would have made a remarkable difference. If Apple did not have this technology already lying around, then, it would have not been such a big defect, but the problem is that Apple already has access to such technology and one of the most important devices already uses it. The Pro iPad models have had access to USB-C with Thunderbolt 4 support for a while now, but instead of simply providing the new Pro phones with this technology that Apple already has access to, they went the route of giving the iPhone worse technology. There are a few possible explanations as to why Apple decided to do everything mentioned above. First of all, for the past 2 iPhone iterations, the 14 and 15, Apple has been trying its best to make the cheaper and Pro iPhone models as different as can be. This is a sad attempt by Apple to make customers more tempted to buy the more expensive iPhones instead of the cheaper models so that they can make more profit. While Apple has the right to push customers to buy the more expensive iPhones, they should be doing so by making the Pro models better and more appealing. Instead, Apple is intentionally harming the cheaper models and limiting them to make them less appealing. Apple could have had the USB-C on the cheaper iPhones be limited to USB 3 speeds like many other flagships and then give the Pro models a shiny and premium USB-C with Thunderbolt 4 support, but instead, they limited the cheaper ones to a very old USB-C and barely gave the Pro models a USB-C that can handle what will be asked of it. Second, the iPhone Pro models are powered by the A17 Pro chip, unlike the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus, which are powered by last year's A16 chip. If you listened closely during the event, Apple said that they managed to add a new on-die USB controller block. This new addition is what allows the new USB-C on the Pro models to support such speeds. However, this is a lame excuse. The reason in the first place that this happened is that Apple decided to power the iPhone 15 with a chip that is already 1 year old. This is something Apple is doing to make the iPhone 15 Pro look better, as we mentioned above. Even if Apple wanted the new iPhone to stick to an A16 chip, they could have simply modified it and added the same new USB block to make sure it could handle the same speeds as the Pro models, but Apple does not want that. I am sure a company worth $3 trillion could get such a thing done if they wanted. Overall, I do not like the direction in which Apple is heading with their new iPhones. I am not saying that they are bad, but I am saying that the obvious attempt at making more money is killing a lot of what Apple can achieve. Releasing a new iPhone that costs $800 and having it is being limited to the same USB speeds that the Lightning port had is a disgrace. By the way, the Lightning port stayed active for 11 years, and not once did it get an upgrade to its data transfer speeds. This means that the new USB-C on the $800 iPhone is coming with speeds that are at least a decade behind. Think of that as you will. Hey friends! Excited to share something phenomenal with you. Skillshare. It's an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious folks like us. Want to unlock your creativity and learn new skills? Use my link below for a free month of Skillshare. Explore classes in design, photography, business, and more. And here's a bonus. Use code annual30AFF to get 30% off an annual subscription. Dive in, join millions, and let's create and learn together. Don't wait. Click the link, start your learning journey, and let's inspire each other with our creations. See you there.